I've been reviewing laptops on YouTube for the past 8 years, but 5 of those years, I've been relying on a desktop PC as my main workstation, and there is a reason for that. If you're stuck deciding between a powerful laptop or a full desktop setup, or maybe you're thinking about ditching your heavy, overbuilt rig, but you're not sure if it's actually feasible, I have been in your shoes. For years, I held off making the switch. Not because the GPU or the CPU were more powerful or less powerful, but because my workflow relied on an entire ecosystem of gear, of connected devices. I mean, just look at all of the stuff that's hooked into my system right now. We've got 2 monitors, this laptop, microphones, all of these different cameras that are hooked in, everything that's underneath here. It is so much gear hooked up. And so I relied on the connectivity of a full desktop system. And so I waited for the right moment to move everything over to a high-end laptop. And that moment finally came. There are 4 main laptops that I considered replacing my desktop, but this is the one that I chose. And I'll unpack why I chose it, how I made the transition from desktop to laptop, and all the performance of my new system. But first, I want to hear from you. What are your reasons for choosing a desktop or a laptop? Drop them in the comments below right now while I walk you through all of mine. Huge shout out to Intel for sponsoring this video and making this desktop to laptop transition possible. I could not keep my channel alive and the helpful content coming your way without incredible partners like Intel. So give them a shout out in the comment section, show them some love. So stoked to be able to work on these projects. My desktop had tons of ports to support all of my peripherals. And as you just saw, I have a lot of peripherals, audio interfaces, multiple keyboards, mice, external storage drives, hubs, and lots of monitors. My last system actually had 4 monitors hooked up to it at one time. I needed a lot of expansion. Multiple PCIe lanes provided for an internal capture card and extra USB-C peripherals. My budget was tighter back then. I could build in stages, so start with a cheaper GPU and upgrade later because the system could push higher wattage, meaning that even with a mid-range GPU, I could get a lot of performance out of it. Now, I had room for 4 to 5 internal storage drives. Thanks to dual M.2 slots on the motherboard and SATA ports, I had a lot of opportunity to connect drives into my system. At the time, Thunderbolt 3 was the best we had, so I used a USB 3.1 expansion card to get more ports that I needed into my system. I didn't realize it then, but I was severely bottlenecking my speeds and limiting my workflow. Now, making the jump came at the perfect time. As I transitioned to a new office space, I was able to tear down my old system, removing the gear bloat. I had been haphazardly bolting on peripherals over the past few years. I'd ended up with a rat's nest of cords and hubs that was really shoddy and patched together. Now, when I started seriously exploring which laptop could replace my desktop, I came up with a list of non-negotiables. These were the features and specs I knew I absolutely needed. A 4K color-accurate matte display, a thick, well-designed form factor that allowed for proper cooling of the system. I did not want to have this mainstay workstation that I was going to be transitioning into be a bottleneck. I wanted a laptop that would have really good thermal performance to avoid any sort of throttling. I wanted the flexibility of multiple internal storage drives so I could set up a unique storage situation, which I'll explain later in the video of how I use all of those storage drives. Dual Thunderbolt 5 ports, because I'm planning for the next 4 to 5 years, not just the current state of peripherals. And a lot of people are like, well, Thunderbolt 5 has come out, yes, but everything's currently like Thunderbolt 4. There's only a handful of Thunderbolt 5. Okay, but I want to have this laptop for say 4 to 6 years. So by getting Thunderbolt 5, I'm future-proofing myself for all the peripherals that will be coming down the pipe soon. And then decent battery life. I didn't expect it to be amazing, but I needed it to be workable. And of course, I wanted to have the best of the best, so I'm looking for an RTX 5090. Now, I narrowed my search down to 4 laptops, as I mentioned. The HP Omen Max, the Lenovo Legion Pro 7i, the Asus Republic of Gamer Strix Scar 18, and of course, the MSI Titan 18HX-AI. All 4 of these are fantastic machines. Honestly, I could recommend any of these depending on your specific priorities, and I'll even link my favorite configurations of these different devices below, so you can compare pricing and specs for yourself. Now keep in mind, if you do make a purchase, I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you, but of course that's what keeps this channel alive and the helpful content coming your way. Now, I've been a long fan of the Legion Pro lineup. Its clean design and performance per dollar value is second to none. Now the HP Omen's recent redesign, especially the 14 and now the 16, is a big step forward for HP. But only the Strix Scar 18 and the MSI Titan 18HX AI included dual Thunderbolt 5 ports, which again was on my list of non-negotiables. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Thunderbolt 5, isn't that kind of overkill? And sure, like I mentioned a moment ago, there's not a ton of peripherals on the market, but the key word is yet. New docks, eGPUs, drives are coming on the market monthly, and I want this system to last. So for me, it was a deal breaker. So it's the Strix versus the MSI Titan 18. And once I decided that I needed a matte display and 4 M.2 slots, that left me with a single option that checked every box, and that was the MSI Titan HX AI. Now, as you can see, this is the laptop that I've chosen to run my entire studio. And to display the authenticity, this is literally the laptop that I use to run the script, and therefore I can't even unplug it at this moment because I'm recording through the prompter off of this script here on the laptop. My last office was organized where my desk was a standing desk, like it is, still currently now, but this review desk was sitting. I literally had to walk around my review desk to get to my standing desk. It was very cumbersome. I probably spent 100 hours walking back and forth between desks over the 4 years that I was within that specific studio. Okay, maybe that's a little dramatic. That setup became very annoying over time and required an extra monitor, an extra keyboard, an extra mouse. It just more and more peripherals kept loading into that system. And so my goal in this new office is for everything to flow together. So I've created this L-shaped setup that is all standing, multiple filming angles. I have the A10 Mini Pro ISO, a camera setup for another angle, as well as microphone ready to go at all times. Now let's talk about how I made this happen before I get too far down the rabbit hole. Now my Titan will be hooked up to the Sonotech 13 Thunderbolt 5 docking station. I'll be running dual flat panel 4K OLED 240Hz gigabyte displays. Now those 240Hz displays are great since the display on the Titan is 120Hz, which could be a turnoff for some. Now because I have a ton of peripherals, I'm adding 2 additional expansion dongles. One dongle for Thunderbolt 5 and one additional dongle for USB Type A ports, with everything neatly cable managed and hooked into the Thunderbolt 5 dock. I only have 2 cables to remove from this laptop in order to take it on the go. Power supply, my Thunderbolt 5 cable, and I am gone. It's so simple. So it allows for a lot of flexibility if I'm like, I really need a super fast computer on location, no compromises. I can easily run out with this at any moment. Now I know Thunderbolt 5 is a little bit of a controversial topic for a lot of people. I've noticed a lot of videos online, a lot of comments in the description about its true value. And let's just get into some raw numbers. Now what I do want to point out here is some details for those really considering Thunderbolt 5. And they're like, do I really need to go Thunderbolt 5? Is Thunderbolt 4 good enough? Let's talk through that now. So just as a quick, easy example, I took my Thunderbolt 5 hub, my Sonotech Echo 13. It has an M.2 drive built into it. I hooked up my MSI Titan 18, which is Thunderbolt 5 equipped, and I transferred a file. It took 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Now I went ahead and took the HP Omen with Thunderbolt 4, hooked it up to the Thunderbolt 5 Sonotech because they are cross-compatible, and that transfer took 4 minutes and 22 seconds. So if you think about multiplying the gigabytes that were transferred, that was just 145 gigs that were being transferred. If you transfer a terabyte or more of data, you could be up to 18 or 20 plus minutes difference in time between Thunderbolt 4 and Thunderbolt 5. And for me, I'm constantly transferring footage from drives to hand off to my editor or just move things around to keep safe and store them in a proper area so I don't lose footage. And so for me, I really needed to future-proof myself with Thunderbolt 5 because yes, there's some peripherals that are coming out, but there's a whole lot more coming out on the monthly, and I now have access to the top speeds with those devices. So for me, Thunderbolt 5 was an absolute must. The craziest thing for me and what really sold me is that external NVMe SSDs can actually now match internal drive speeds. I can edit directly off of external drives, even 6K or 8K B-RAW footage, and it provides a 0 drop frame editing experience. And then of course, data transfer is not bottlenecking for large media libraries. I'm able to transfer that without any hitches. It's very, very smooth. Now, one thing that really sold me on diving all in on Thunderbolt and specifically Thunderbolt 5 was Thunderbolt Share. Now, Thunderbolt Share allows you to connect two Thunderbolt-enabled laptops or desktop PCs together and instantly share peripherals, displays, storage devices, and even control them. So all you have to do is plug in one Thunderbolt cable. This works on both Thunderbolt 4 or Thunderbolt 5. This isn't your average file sharing setup. We're talking real-time interaction between two systems. You have one cable. All you have to do is take your Thunderbolt cable, plug it into the two devices, and that's it. And you're completely paired in every way. It's sharing control, peripherals, and data down to a single connection between two machines. So there's no more need for a KVM switch or third-party software. No more dual keyboard mouse setups, external drives bouncing between machines, or switching HDMI cables back and forth. Literally plug one cable in and you're using everything together. Now, the really cool way I'm gonna be using this is benchmarking. And this is probably super niche to me as a YouTube tech reviewer. I now have the ability to benchmark a laptop from my main workstation. So I used to have to split my focus between two screens or areas of my office. So like I'd be working over here, and then I'd be benchmarking a laptop over here. But now that I can connect a laptop into Thunderbolt Share, I can literally stay at my main workstation and I can control everything that's happening on the laptop that I am benchmarking. So I can stay super focused on the task at hand. Like I said, super niche, but hopefully it gives you some ideas on what you can do. Now, one thing that absolutely drove me nuts about this type of connectivity in the past was the software conflicts and lack of reliability. So because it's part of Thunderbolt hardware, there's less latency and more reliability. So you're not relying on apps like, Synergy or like an input sharing over Wi-Fi. I don't know about you, but I've always hated those kind of hackware softwares that tried to act as like a system linkage application. They always seemed so janky, and this is hardwired, very smooth PC sharing technology. There is a bit of a downside of like it's, only if you're in the physical room with the device, but that makes the speeds absolutely incredible.
One really awesome feature from Thunderbolt Share is the OBS direct integration. It allows you to capture the full bandwidth, refresh rate, and display resolution directly into OBS streaming software from your Thunderbolt Share connected device. Make sure you have OBS installed, and then you select the OBS plugin checkbox when installing Thunderbolt Share on your device, or you'll miss this checkbox and wonder why you can't find the Thunderbolt source inside of OBS. I ran into that issue. Once installed, you can easily select Thunderbolt Share source and begin streaming. I brought up my boys to play a little bit of LEGO Star Wars to test out the ease and quality of the stream, and I must say it's impressive. Now, regarding Thunderbolt Share, you must make sure that one of the devices within the PC connection chain is Thunderbolt Share licensed. I'll show you the current list of devices on the screen, but in order for this video to provide the most up-to-date information possible, I'll put a link in the description below for you to check the most up-to-date list of Thunderbolt Share licensed devices. Now, when you first load up Thunderbolt Share, you're met with 4 options on the screen: control of their computer, sync files. Now that's when you plug in, you can keep 2 devices synced up. This is helpful for me when working off 2 separate laptops to make sure I'm never missing files on one of the laptops. That has happened in the past more times than I care to mention. I get home, I try to start editing a project, and there's missing files, and I can't keep editing. It's very frustrating. The next one is drag and drop files. Basically allows 2 computers to now have direct transfer capabilities, something that's not been widely available up until this point. Why it hasn't, I don't know. Thank the Lord that we now have Thunderbolt Share and can do that. Transfer data to new computer is another option. So if I were to purchase a new laptop and wanted to clone my old system, I just simply click this option and it syncs up my old system to my new system. Really nice feature there. Now that we have Thunderbolt 5 on a variety of new Intel Core Ultra HX systems, we have access to 80 gigabytes per second of file transfer speeds and 120 gigabytes per second of data transfer speeds. Now, data transfer would be like video signal from your computer to your external monitor. Not only that, but it also provides higher bandwidth utilizing DisplayPort 2.1 instead of DisplayPort 1.4. Now, the question begs, am I actually getting all of that performance? No worries, I can check the bandwidth capabilities of my devices within my USB 4 settings so that I know I'm actually getting the full performance of the equipment I have hooked up. But did you also know that running two 4K at 60 Hertz resolution displays equals 32 gigabytes per second, meaning that when I'm running both 4K monitors, if I were on anything less than Thunderbolt 5, I would only have about 8 gigs of data speeds left available to me. Hence, why I was running into system overload issues on my previous desktop tower.
So as Thunderbolt 5 becomes more and more common, Thunderbolt Share is going to be, I think, a game changer for a lot of people, especially for those of us in the creative and technical fields who can benefit from using multiple systems at the same time with the same peripherals like mouse, keyboard, microphone, whatever it might be. So for me, it's yet another reason why I wanted a machine with dual Thunderbolt 5 ports to equip myself with a future-proof system. One port connects to my display dock. The other Thunderbolt 5 port is ready for quick file transfer between machines, benchmarking laptops without even moving from my main station where I'm working. And I'm all ready for current availability of Thunderbolt 5 devices and future devices.
All right, so for now, those of you who are interested, I'm gonna walk you through the gear that's now in my studio. If you're not interested and you don't really care what I use, you're just more interested in the laptop desktop conversion, go ahead and skip to the next section. But for those that are interested, let's walk through things now. So looking up here, you can see we have the top camera facing down. We have our main camera with the Elgato teleprompter. Currently, I'm using the new Rode Wireless Pro mic. I find that this is actually getting really the best audio experience in my office. The older Octava mic, and that was even a little bit echoey. I probably need to do some more sound treatment in the office, to be totally honest. Still need to do that. I have my Shure SM7B for live streaming and doing recordings. Of course, the MSI Titan 18HX and then we have the Gigabyte Aurora's 4K 240 Hertz displays. Right now I don't have this one running. That one's normally running, but just running some tests on some different things. So that one's not currently running at this exact second. And then of course, RGB keyboard and my Sonotech. This thing is incredible, being able to bring all the different peripherals into my setup here. Charger, of course, and then come below here, we have a 4-bay dock for some drive storage, speaker underneath, chargers all wrapped up underneath here. This is the MSI charger, those are the monitor chargers, so super clean cable management was my main goal. Subwoofer, printer, and then we have, of course, the Zoom PodTrack P4 that brings in my audio into the system. And then you have the Cloud Lifter, and that's for the SM7B mic. Now everything's coming in through this A10 Mini Pro ISO. Now I also have a third Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Cam 6K. I love this small rig, 99 watt-hour battery, so this can travel on the plane with me. It will keep this camera running for a good 2+ hours of just straight filming. Usually like when I'm at CES or something, I usually film on and off for all day, and it usually drains it down to about 40% or so. And I can even run a light off of that and the camera. It's absolutely incredible, so that's great as well.
Now let's talk about the battery life. This has a 99 watt-hour battery. It's, to me, like it has a built-in battery backup system. Now, obviously it's not, it's a battery in a laptop, but that's kind of how I use it because it's my main desktop system. So I live on the coast and we get a lot of storms, and with that, a lot of power outages. And I keep a backup mobile router mounted under my desk. So when I lose power, I'm still good to work for like 4 to 5 hours on this device because I still have internet and I still have power on my laptop, which is usually enough time for the average elongated power outage in my area. So I get to keep working. Like everybody else is out of power. My wife can't even really cook food, but I can keep working. All right, now let's talk about the ports. Now taking this laptop on the go is very flexible. Remember, it has 2 Thunderbolt 5 ports and it has an SD card reader, so I don't have to tote around a dongle. This was another reason I was so bullish on choosing the MSI Titan over the other laptops in the lineup that I was considering. Nobody else came with an SD card reader, and so when I'm doing photography on the go, I don't need to bring a dongle, slide it right in, good to go. Screen resolution is, remember, this is a mini LED, 4K 3840 by 2400 at 120 Hertz. It has a screen brightness of 744 nits. Now, this thing is heavy. With Without the charger, it is almost 8 pounds. Stack the charger on top and you're looking at 10.5 pounds. And it's 1.26 inches thick. But it's nothing that's completely unmanageable, nothing that's not super challenging to take on the go. My backpack won't fit it. I have this, little 13 to 14 inch Herschel backpack. I'm going to have to either buy another backpack or just commit to carrying it with me. Now, one thing I loved about my desktop was the flexibility in the storage configurability. That's why I landed on the Titan 18. Internally, tons of flexibility, and Thunderbolt 5 allows me to keep external storage drives as fast as the internal ones equipped. And that leads me to the fact that my workflow dominates raw performance for me. That is why I ended up choosing the MSI Titan 18. It packs 24 cores, 24 threads, and the Intel Core Ultra 9 285HX. It's paired with the NVIDIA RTX 5090, 24 gigs of VRAM with a maximum graphics power draw of 175 watts. I have 64 gigs of integrated RAM, and as I mentioned, 4 M.2 SSD slots, 3 Gen 4, 1 Gen 5. From all the latest devices that I've tested, and I continue to get more in my studio, it has the best-in-class 6K video editing, and of course 4K. As you can see, both charts have come up on the screen. It absolutely kills it in 6K, getting the best export time I've ever seen on my channel. For playback, 0 drop frames for 6K B-RAW, and only 21 drop frames for 8K red footage. So if I were to go crazy and to get one of the latest 12K Blackmagic cameras, this laptop would have no problems with it. Now, the Photoshop performance is 500 to 700 points higher than the Strix Scar and the HP Omen Max. So keep in mind that if you're looking for Photoshop, it's not worlds faster, but it definitely has an edge on those two devices. Okay, now let's talk about thermals and fan noise. Now that my laptop is above my desk, the thermals and fan noise matter a bit more because I'm recording videos. And it's kind of cool that right now I'm using the laptop to be a part of my recording session, like it's running this software, because literally no fan noise. This laptop needs to be quiet. So running the laptop in balance mode has provided me with no fan noise right now, but occasionally 35 to 42 decibels of fan noise. Now this has worked for my filming sessions, as you can tell right now, because my ambient room noise is anywhere from about 32 to 35 decibels, and my voice while recording is usually 50 to 55 decibels. That said, there was some inconsistencies on some of the exports. Temps stayed cool, noise was minimal on some, but then on that same export, same settings, it would run hotter and louder. I tested across silent mode, balance mode, extreme mode, and saw this variance on each of them. So while overall cooling is solid, perhaps this is something, the inconsistencies, this is something that MSI could resolve over time with some firmware updates. That's honestly probably my biggest gripe with this laptop. I took a big bet making the jump into a laptop-centric system. Now that I've been in my office for over 3 weeks though, I'm so happy I did so. The laptop setup is far more flexible, adapts to how I work rather than having myself adapt to the system itself. I feel more in control of my workflow. I can really zero into my projects, and everything is at arm's length. It's very, very intuitive and easy to use. This system is actually wildly fast for my creative workflow, and Thunderbolt 5 has made inputting all my various peripherals a really smooth experience. Plus, no more bandwidth overload where my system was previously dropping storage drives when I had too many plugged in at one time. So like I'd have like 3 or 4 plugged in, I'd go to plug a 5th one in to like move some files around to really prep a drive for my editor, and then all of a sudden one of the drives at random, whatever one it chose, would just drop off. And so because of Thunderbolt 5 and the increased bandwidth, that's no longer an issue. And this was a huge bottleneck for me. It was to a point where I was actually having to pull up a separate laptop to like move files around. And then I would move files around, and then I would take that drive and I would go over to my main desktop and then move files from another drive because it was all kind of separated. And that has completely been eliminated by this device and the power of how much data Thunderbolt 5 can move at one time. Remember, links are in the description below if you want to make a purchase or check out the live pricing. And if you want to check out more videos about the MSI Titan 18 or other content on the channel to help you with your buying decision, click or tap the screen here, and I'll see you over in one of those videos. See y'all later.